Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, Pulp Crime, Stephen King, and a very weird thing that's happened. It's my weekly wrap-up. So let's start with the weird thing that's happened. So the weird thing that's happened is I have hit 25,000 subscribers, which seems mind-blowingly odd to me. I have no idea why 25,000 people would want to subscribe to my channel and watch me babbling on about books. People who've watched the channel for a while will know I started this channel to win a bet with my son, to see who could get to 100 subscribers first. I won that bet and found that I really enjoyed doing BookTube, and the channel has continued to grow since then. But the channel is nothing without all of you. All I do is sit down in front of my phone and babble on about books. It's you that make the channel. It's you watching the videos. It's you leaving comments. It's you encouraging me to read different things. That are the reason the channel is a success. So thank you to everyone watching this, and people who aren't watching this, who've watched other videos of mine. Sincerely, I really do appreciate your support. So it is traditional on YouTube to do things to mark milestone events like this, and 25,000 subs does feel like a milestone. So I'm going to do something. I haven't quite decided what yet. I think I will definitely do a Q&A. So I'll put a post on my community tab where people can ask questions, and I'll do a video where I answer those questions. But aside from that, I'm not sure. I might do a giveaway. I might do some shout outs and things like that, but I'll definitely do the Q&A anyway. And I'll ruminate over the next few days and decide what else I'm gonna do. But I'll probably do that Q&A video next weekend maybe. So yeah, I'll put something up on the community tab, and people can ask questions there should they want to, if there's anything you want to know about. Right, so that's the weird thing out of the way. Let's talk about books. So another weird thing has happened this week, actually, which is I've only finished 3 books, which for me isn't very many, albeit one of those books was technically 3 books. So that actually makes it 5 books. So let's talk about them anyway. So the first one is the Auschwitz Detective by Jonathan Dunsky. So Jonathan, the author, sent me a copy of this some time ago, and more recently sent me the audiobook. And it was actually the audiobook I listened to. And it was really good. So it's a detective novel, as the title suggests. It's set in Auschwitz during the Second World War, so towards the end of the Second World War. I think it starts in 1944. So that setting makes it very disturbing. It's part of a series, so this is kind of like the prequel, if you like. It's actually book 6 in the series, but it takes place chronologically before the rest. The rest of them, I believe, are set in the 50s in Israel, where Adam Lapid, who's the hero, kind of solves mysteries. But this is kind of his origin story. So he's a detective who's been put into Auschwitz, and is just part of the general population trying to survive there. And he gets, for various reasons, he gets asked to to investigate a murder. And it's about that. But it was a really effective book. I think I am going to do a full review of this one, so I won't talk too much about it. But it did a very good job of blending, the horror of Auschwitz and being, an authentic feeling and very moving book about that, with a more traditional mystery. So I thought it definitely achieved its goals. The other thing I've read, so I've just finished it this morning, so I'm going to count it as a June book, but technically I finished it on the 1st of July. But it was like 8 a.m. in the morning I finished it. Billy Summers by Stephen King. So I've wanted to read this one for a while. I'm a big Stephen King fan. I've read most of his books, but there are some gaps. There are some that I haven't read, and this was one of them. And I like books about principled hitmen, which is what this is about. So again, I'm going to do a full review of this because I do have quite a lot of thoughts about it and about King as a writer generally. But I really enjoyed it for the most part. So it's maybe a bit longer than it could have been, but that's always the case with Stephen King, isn't it? But it is really good. So it's about this guy who's a hitman who gets hired to do a job that feels a little bit shaky, but the money's too good for him to resist it. And it's about what happens thereafter, and particularly about his relationship with the young woman he meets. But it was really good. It was really gripping. It was really moving. It's got a lot of the things you expect from Stephen King, but I really enjoyed it. The next thing I read then, which is the book that is technically 3 books, is a book called Three Aces by a publisher called Stark House. So they sent me a copy of it to review, and I really enjoyed it. So Stark House publish a lot of kind of vintage crime and pulpy type stuff, and this is no exception to that. So this is 3, so as the title suggests, it's 3 books. Originally published by a publisher called Ace, who published a lot of, I think they're particularly known for sci-fi, but they published a lot of crime stuff as well. And these were 3 very different books, all from the 50s, but a really nice collection in terms of being representative of different kind of subgenres of pulpy crime from the 50s. So again, I probably will do a full review of this because I really enjoyed it. But the 3 books that it contains were Gilded Hideaway by Peter Twist, which is kind of a very noirish story about a guy who steals a load of money through fraud, and then is trying to trying to build a new life for himself in Mexico, but getting involved with all sorts of shady characters there. In at the Kill by Emmett McDowell, which was my favourite of the 3 stories. So this was a kind of quite playful mystery story about this guy who's an auctioneer who gets involved in some like papers that are being buried under the sidewalk, and there's basically a company mysteriously get hired to dig up and repair the sidewalk, and he figures out it's because they're trying to get to these papers that have been buried there, supposedly been buried there for decades, and there's a whole mystery about what's in those papers. But it was just a light, very entertaining read. It turns out there's some other books in that series, so I bought a couple of them on Kindle from Amazon because they were like dead cheap. So yeah, looking forward to reading some more Emmett McDowell in the coming weeks. And then the 3rd book was a book called Heat Lightning by an author called Wileen Shaw. And this is a kind of slightly saucy, slightly smutty, kind of like young woman having sex in a small town kind of a book. So I guess maybe a bit kind of post Peyton Place or something like that, but about this small town where there's all sorts of kind of shenanigans going on, and about this one young woman in particular kind of I suppose flowering into womanhood, shall we say. So lots of kind of vaguely described sex, but just a nice kind of steamy atmosphere to it all. So I had a good time with that one. So yeah, all 3 of the books in it were very different from each other, but each enjoyable in their own right. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. And then I've just started this morning my first book of July, which will be The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy. So I'm doing a buddy read of this with one of my patrons, MJ. We're going to be reading this and Stella Maris as well, the kind of companion book to it. So I've only read the first chapter. It feels very Cormac McCarthy so far, in that basically it's all dialogue with no punctuation pretty much. But I'm quite enjoying it. I'm anticipating this being quite heavy going compared to the kind of stuff I normally read. So we'll see how I get on with it. So that's what I've been reading. I'm also going to be reading a bit of manga this weekend, in between reading the Cormac McCarthy, just to kind of lighten the load a little bit. And then once I finish that, I'll move into BookTube at War. So it's BookTube at War this month. So I've got a few things. I did a kind of loose TBR video for that the other day. So a few things I've got kind of on deck for that, and I'll be picking up one of those once I finish The Passenger, I think. In terms of channel stuff then, so aside from the Milestone, which is wonderful, so you've had a few different videos this week. So I did a sponsored video yesterday, a review of a lamp I got sent, which I'm really impressed with the lamp. So if you're in the market for a reading lamp, check that video out. I've done a couple of reviews. So I did a review of an independent horror book called North Border by an author called Benjamin Percy. I did a review of Birdman by Mo Hader. I did the launch video for Garb August, which is my reading event, which takes place in August, which is dedicated to reading trashy books. So I had a lot of fun making that video. It's a very silly video. It's got the most the most technically ambitious introduction to any video I've ever made. So if you haven't watched it, just watch the first minute, and you'll see what I mean. So that was fun to do. And I also did my July TBR videos, as I've mentioned. In the week ahead then, so I've got a few things I want to review, and I haven't quite decided which ones I will do. But Three Aces, I keep forgetting the name of it. I keep wanting to call it Billy Madison, but that's that Adam Sandler film, isn't it? Billy Summers, and the Auschwitz Detective. So you'll probably get a review of two of those. I'm also probably going to do the mid-year free count book tag, because I haven't done that yet. And there's a video a few people have done which I quite enjoyed watching, which is where you look back and see if you've read a book for every year you've been alive. So I think I'm gonna do that as well. So starting in 1973, looking through my Goodreads and picking out a book for every year. So yeah, look out for that. And I always forget to say in my videos, but if you look in the About section for the channel on YouTube, you'll see lots of different places you can connect with me. So places like Instagram and Goodreads. So if you want to connect there, you'll see my details there, and you can follow me at those places. And of course, there's my Discord server as well, which is really active at the moment. So lots of people talking about books there. So if you fancy signing up there and joining it, it's all free. It's just a nice place to kind of hang out and chat. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know what you've been reading this week. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about. Look out on my community tab for that post asking for questions for the Q&A. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.